So dudes, G here. Let's talk about my recent gaming experience. To cut right to the chase, I'm taking a half break from GGE. That's why I didn't upload last month. Now, obviously this is an upload, so it's not a complete break, hence half break. I've allocated my time to other creative pursuits that I'm more interested in. The haters said I couldn't do it, and they were correct. Honestly, great call from the hater. I like a good espresso, but I'm not gonna ball out and spend a cajillion dollars on all of the equipment. I'm, for the time being, happy with my grocery store coffee maker and little. If you'd want to have a more varied experience, Trade Coffee is perfect for you. They'll get you a variety of different coffee flavors from small businesses that you're supporting, delivered right to your doorstep. Trade doesn't just give you a varied experience, they give you a personalized experience. So if you're really into espresso like me, they got you covered. If you want more exotic, darker notes like dark chocolate, more fruity notes, you can go for that. It's pretty easy for me to tell the difference between cheap coffee and good quality coffee. It's flavorful, it has a lot of color and brightness to it. It's good quality stuff, it's convenient, and it's not that expensive either. In fact, Trade is so confident that you'll love your experience, they're offering you 30% off of your first month. Visit drinktrade.com/GGE to check it out. And thanks to Trade for sponsoring my work fuel today. Look, here's the deal. Everybody who's a fan of the channel appreciates my honesty and straightforwardness. Sometimes people don't. In fact, it seems a lot of people don't. This video is no different. The cheating thing is out of control, though. I'm a competitive person. I like to win. I like to outsmart and outplay people. Now, do I have a lot to show for it? No. But I don't care, right? Grinding ranked and climbing the ladder is what pulls me into Siege, like it does for a lot of comp shooter players. So when somebody tells me to play the game for fun, it's kind of dancing around the problem. It's just not how I really enjoy it. Now, maybe I should talk to my therapist about it, but that's not your problem. That's mine. So, take care of yourself, all right, kids? I try to play Siege strategically, even if my mechanics aren't perfect. Lots of people play this game that way. That's the nature of a comp shooter. People like to win. So that whole play for fun argument is fine if you don't want to do that, but I want to compete. That's the whole point for me. And if you want to play competitively, you're stuck with a crushing reality with a lot of these games. And it's not just Siege in general. This is happening across the board. The higher ranks for games like this are pretty much just infested with cheaters. Counter-Strike is called Cheater Strike nowadays. That anti-cheat just doesn't even exist. You might as well just play Face It at that point. And the sad part is that a lot of people are probably going to boot up Face It and then not really understand the Face It culture and feel like it's really toxic. Maybe someone's going to be a little mean to them, because they're not used to that kind of super duper gamer deluxe kind of vibe. But that's just how it, that's just how it be. And I think people should be able to get into that experience relatively drama free. But right now, that is not happening. So we are losing the cheater war. I'm not trying to be a downer. I'm not saying your experience is bad. I'm not saying tons of people are having a good time. Jinx is out here making a shit zillion dollars and getting a shit zillion hits off of Twitch. He's killing it. My roommate Alka, he's killing it. Go check out his channel too. I get it. Maybe my experience doesn't reflect yours, but it's just really, really put a stain on the whole process of it for me. And I'm not even gonna blame anyone in particular, but it's very frustrating because I feel like you can't have a good faith conversation about it. The bottom line is devs at every company are outnumbered by these dorks that are running in a black market where they make a ton of money writing code, and the work output is just too high for a lot of these guys to keep up with. If you've seen my past content, I've mentioned the South Korean model, criminalizing this as a kind of digital vandalism. Think about it, right? Like if I ran into a fancy restaurant and I mess up their kitchen, that's a service. Siege is a live service. If I disrupt that restaurant service, I get arrested. I get arrested for disrupting their business. So to me, this isn't really any different. Cheaters mess with the service the company is providing that they're selling for real money. That's messed up. And it's a breach of terms. So in many countries, this kind of stuff is criminal. Software bro freedom arguments don't apply in China, all right? You just lose social credit score. Now, I know that Valorant exists and a lot of people are really irritated about that for understandable reasons. I personally think that it's more of a cost-benefit analysis. Would you rather have improved social credit and no cheaters in your video game? I don't know. I think a lot of people, like I said, approach these conversations in disingenuous ways. Do you have TikTok on your phone? Get ready to delete that shit, right? If you're going to talk about Valorant, why do you have TikTok on your phone? You can go without TikTok. TikTok is an app for people to do silly dances on. You don't need TikTok, so you don't need Valorant, right? You're willing to go full circle with that? No, a lot of people don't go full circle with that. They pick things to get mad about on the internet. They see something and then they absorb talking points about it. People don't really think past the surface issue on a lot of stuff. Riot Vanguard isn't necessarily bad because it is a kernel level anti-cheat. BattlEye is a kernel level anti-cheat. Faceit is a kernel level anti-cheat. What makes Riot Vanguard sus is the fact that it runs all the time, and there's no way of back-checking whether or not the data it's collecting is going to Xi Jinping. Now, I think it's going to surprise the crap out of a lot of people. Valorant already does by being as popular as it is. I think a lot of people are willing to trade that. I think a lot of people are willing to wally themselves if it means no cheaters in their video game. But Rainbow Six Siege isn't like that. Rainbow Six Siege is a military-themed game with a Tom Clancy name attached to it. That means, like Counter-Strike and Call of Duty, it has a somewhat more conservative-leaning stance. And online conservatives tend to be a little bit more aware of their data privacy. So what's going to work for Valorant isn't going to work for Rainbow Six, I fear. So I think the solution is probably just to play pickup games with your friends, maybe join a 10-man server, or hell, maybe even get into a competitive, I don't know. But the entire industry is under threat. Open source gaming exists, but Siege is a live service game from a huge company, and that comes with certain expectations. Now, a lot of those expectations are dog shit. But, you know, that's just the way this is. A lot of people would not make that trade. A lot of people don't want to trade privacy for a better anti-cheat, and that's understandable. But if you want these games to stick around, it's the question you gotta answer. A lot of people don't like it when I talk about it this way, because it implies that we can't have our cake and eat it too. If Ubisoft rolls out a robust anti-cheat that's in-house and does what I think it's gonna do, you know, get ready to learn French, buddy. That data is going to go somewhere to Montreal. I don't know what they're going to do with that data. Are they going to do the same thing as Tencent's going to do with it? I don't know. Out of your friends, which corporate overlord are you? Nobody wants to have this conversation because it's too hard. One of the ways that you can tell if somebody is full of crap is if they can't provide an alternative when they're complaining about something. If somebody's complaining about the logistical supply of widgets, and then you ask them, okay, what's the alternative? Do you have a different idea how to do it? And they can't come up with something, that usually means they're full of crap. I feel like that's happening with cheating in video games. Some of the people who are acting in the conversation in good faith are pretty happy and content with the live service industry just exploding into the sun. But a lot of people have this idea that the live service games can continue to remain the way they are with no input that's different. And that's just not how this is going to work. If we keep going at the rate that we're going, cheaters are just going to eliminate this genre and wipe it off of the map if something isn't done. Regardless, I think the big capitalism wheel in the sky is going to keep turning, believe it or not. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we can argue about on another channel someday. I don't really care what happens, I'm just here for the bag. The industry has a lot of greedy rot intertwined in it. Take the example of the Hi-Fi Rush devs. These guys made a fantastic game that was a blowout hit, and then they accidentally did too well of developing a game. That's just... Now, if that ain't a first-class trip to Yikers Island. It's really poggers, you know? You just got people on the 55th floor at these big fucking companies who make $250,000 a year, and they just can't get their fucking book straightened out, so then 200 plus people lose their jobs overnight. That's really awesome. Who the hell wants to work in the games industry at that kind of level anymore? Even the blue-collar guys get fucked. And those are supposed to be the reliable jobs. So yeah, I think you're going to start seeing a big migration away from this in general, and then it's going to get even more consolidated, which just really sucks. You'll still have your From Softwares and Elden Rings of the world, but it's not like the movie industry, right? Like, Dune Part 2 can take less money to make than Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then maybe get some people to start thinking a little bit differently. But with the games industry, that's clearly not the case. Clearly, Hi-Fi Rush has proven that you can spend less money, be more efficient with your workflow, and make a better product, and it's still not fucking enough. Now, I think that some things are changing. I think there are different precedents set. Take a look at Helldivers 2, for example. If you were in the Philippines and you were playing that game and enjoying it for 3 months, then Sony comes out of nowhere and they just RKO you and say, hey man, you can't play anymore. No motherfucker, give me my goddamn money back. And that's good. This was probably the first example of gamers actually getting together and putting their money where their mouth is instead of whining and complaining on the internet. Stop playing with these companies and they'll stop playing with you. That's got nothing to do with your interpretation of whether capitalism is bad or not. That's just being a good consumer. That's just not being a chump. In my opinion, the gaming industry is just filled with nepotism and people that don't know what the hell they're doing getting in charge of these big projects. They get offloaded onto projects because maybe, you know, the 65-year-old executive is retiring finally, and then they're, you know, they appointed their cousin Frank's younger brother Vinny or something, and they have looked at an Xbox, so that counts as like expertise in the gaming industry in that world, I guess. I don't know. My overall point here is that unless something changes really drastically, I'm not expecting anything too crazy from the industry. But in terms of games like Counter-Strike, like I'm just not even playing regular matchmaking anymore, man. If I'm gonna play Counter-Strike, I'm gonna play Faceit. I've been playing a lot of Helldivers 2. I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2, actually. You know, the whole monetization drama there and some of the corporate stuff going on there, that's a little screwy. You know, if somebody's cheating in that game, that's just kind of goofy, right? Because the whole point is to get through the raid, you know, without cheating. So like, whatever. I know that nobody in my party's doing it, so I don't give a crap. But for you, it might be different. You know, I know some people were concerned about the Helldivers 2 anti-cheat because there was something going on there. Again, like, there's no tangible evidence of stuff, right? That's never the argument. The argument is that this is weird, and there's no way of knowing whether it can be exploited or not. And I think that's going to happen with a lot of data stuff in the world just in general as the world becomes more interconnected and we get more plugged into the matrix. I think it's just going to keep going and going. So, we could do over-under on whether or not society turns into Ready Player One or WALL-E, or maybe a little bit of both. You know, I'm thinking, we're going to double dip a little bit. I have a pretty uncharitable take about a lot of the management with these companies. I don't think EA is run by smart people. I don't think Microsoft's run by smart people. I don't think Activision Blizzard was run by smart people. I think it's run by short-sighted, greedy people who are more concerned about shareholders and what's going to happen from each quarter and quarter after quarter after quarter instead of long-term planning. And until that changes, I just think the competitive FPS, like especially tac shooter genre, is just always going to be under threat from this crap. Unless you're willing to, sacrifice a little bit of your own privacy to get it. And I know a lot of people aren't going to do that. So I think the industry is just not looking hot. Riot saw this crap coming from a million miles away and just said, hey man, we're going to inoculate ourselves from this garbage. And then they just said, we're going to be king in the mid. Like our gunplay isn't as good as Counter-Strike's, but people can play the game, people can queue into games, queue into matchmaking, and climb the ladder system, and they don't run into as many cheaters. Nearly as many cheaters as any other FPS game. And that, all they had to do was that, and now they stand out among the rest, and that is big. That is big bingo bucks. I mean, people are calling Counter-Strike a cheater strike. Do you have any idea? How far from grace that fall is? Like, that wasn't supposed to happen to this. Like, Counter-Strike was the golden standard. The solution is more powerful anti-cheat that people aren't gonna like, or the legal system, and people aren't gonna like that either. So either way, we're just, the situation is just crappy, shitty crap, and we're just, yeah. I'm not saying this to irritate people. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but that's just how it is. That's my interpretation of it anyway. A lot of people don't want the solution, and I understand why they don't want it. I used to be very combative with this argument until, I went through some things with my mental health and sort of took a step back and got my head out of my own ass. And I understand that a lot of people do approach the conversation in a good faith way, but a lot of people do approach it in a disingenuous way, and that makes it really frustrating because I think they have this idea that two things are going to happen at the same time, right? You're going to have like effective anti-cheat and not some kind of, privacy arguments that you don't want to have, and that's just not going to happen. I mean, shit. Look at my audience polling here. Like, a lot of people just don't even play the game anymore. It's really cool, I'm in a bit of an algorithmic sandwich here. A lot of my audience doesn't play the game, but the only content that will work on this channel is content about the game. So that's just really, whew, that's a doozy. Point being, if you want to play without cheaters, like the technology back in 2007 isn't going to cut it anymore, man. I'm sorry. Like, it sucks, but that's just, I don't know what else to say. I mean, shit, if I can still get a couple of dollaroos from this channel, yapping about Siege, I'll keep doing it. I don't care. I'll get my money out of it either way. But yeah, sorry for the kind of downer video, guys. I was just like, maybe I'll try the game in standard. Maybe I'll try quick match in standard. I was talking about it on the pod with Keeney Bodie, and he says that standard, seems to be relatively cheater-free. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give that another crack. But ranked is just, it's just really, really unfortunate the way the situation has turned out, and it's happening across the whole industry. It's not just happening to Siege. I'm just gonna, maybe Ubisoft will cook something up. Maybe they'll cook up an in-house something or other one day. I don't know yet, but we'll just have to wait. If you guys like this video, subscribe for more like it. Maybe I'll try uploading on here once a week, kind of doing yap sessions like this. I feel like this kind of like rapid fire yappity yap tends to do relatively well. Some people like to hear what I have to say for some reason. I'm not sure why, but yeah, I'll be back around, not forever from now. Yeah. See you around. Deuces. Once again, thanks to Trade. Get 30% off your first month by going to drinktrade.com/GGE. Thanks again for sponsoring.